3, 2. On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks get an insane win against the Denver Nuggets. How did Kyrie Irving hit that game-winning shot? And how did the Mavericks win against the Denver Nuggets? We'll talk about that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Engstead, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, where we let it ride. Thanks, everybody, for being a part of the show. Make it Locked On Mavs your first listen today, with the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day. Leave a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to, Apple, Spotify, all that. Leave a comment on YouTube and let me know what's one thing that stood out to you in this Mavs win against the Nuggets. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedinjobs.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And joining me
I think that worked.
from 105.3 The Fan, pulling off the Chris Collinsworth slide. What you got for me, Reg Atatula?
Is it a hook shot or is it a push shot? We need to work that one out, but it was a fantastic game, baby.
Oh my goodness, Kyrie Irving did something we've never, I would say he's done something we've never seen. The problem is, I saw Luka hit that shot from the side over there against the Nuggets, or against the Nets earlier this season and win a game. So, oh my gosh, we'll talk about Kyrie Irving's insane shot. We'll talk about how Luka Doncic carried them all the way to that point. We'll talk about how the Mavs played bully ball, out-bullied the Denver Nuggets. That's not a thing we should just gloss over at this point. I mean, that is a difference in what this Mavericks team has been to what they are now. And so we'll get into all that. We'll talk about that. But Reggie, we got to start here, and the music will we'll just let the music go out, because good night.
We did have a season ticket holder let us know that we needed to let it ride.
Everybody's been telling us to let it ride.
So, yeah.
We will, and we'll keep letting it ride, because, man, what an insane, absolutely awesome win for the Dallas Mavericks. A healthy Nuggets team against a pretty much healthy Mavericks team.
Yeah.
Luka with the hamstring injury, he ends up playing. Josh Green out, he's going to be out for a couple of weeks. Dante Exum was kind of a game time decision, sort of, and so then, he ended up playing, and he played a part in this. And oh my gosh, Kyrie at the end, just. The Mavs have drawn up so many plays to win games that did not succeed until this one, where it felt like such a broken play. And when you have a guy like Kyrie Irving, when you have a guy like Luka Doncic, they can take a broken play. They can take a broken offensive scheme. They can take a broken team, and they can turn it into something incredible. And what they did was they did just that. They turned it into an incredible win for the Mavs.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, and I'm going to get into this particular place for myself, which is Kyrie Irving remains the best difficult shot maker in the league, right? Like, he's been that for what feels like 10 years running at this point. And I mean, it's evidenced by that. Dude. Yeah, during the course of this one.
It's great.
During the course of this one, right? There's times where you look at the shot selection and it can be frustrating, but the reason why you live with it is you can have that particular shot at the end where even Luka Doncic is kind of perplexed by how it happens. After the course of it, like I imagine if you were watching the TV copy, you saw Luka Doncic is like on his knees with his hand on his head, laughing maniacally because he did not imagine that would happen. I mean, we're sitting here watching the game, and one of our colleagues looks at it and says, why is he putting the ball on the floor? He's not going to have time. He puts the ball on the floor, gets it up, and, hoists it towards the rim, and just continues the legend of Kyrie Irving making difficult shots, man.
Hoisted it to the heavens, basically. Over Jokic, too, which is, kind of the part of this that in that last play, when you start to look at it and break it down, you go, man, he got the switch that they wanted.
Yeah.
And they couldn't throw it to Luka because he would have to attempt a really tough step-back three. They didn't need the three. And so you get it to Kyrie instead, who's coming off of an action, coming around a corner and coming around a bend, and Jokic has to step over and slide over and get to him.
Yeah.
And so then you give it to Kyrie, and you're like, all right, just do something with it. And Jokic defended it as well as I guess you could have hoped, especially for a 7-footer with slow feet and all that. Like, he's still stuck with him. And Kyrie had to do it left-handed. I
forgot. Yeah, that's not his dominant hand.
I mean, that part of the shot too is just like it adds to the legend of it. That Kyrie is he's that type of guy, that type of shot maker where he can hit, they've talked about the reasons why Kyrie can hit all these crazy layups off the glass and do this stuff. In the last game we saw him do like the two-handed like behind the back off the backboard. Like just some insane stuff that he's done, and whether it because he grew up with like a hoop with only like a tiny backboard, or he grew up like there's all these different reasons that Kyrie did this, but he has become that player where he can hit shots from anywhere. And he was taking a bunch of contested jumpers in this game. And the one that ended up being the game winner that saved this game, basically, and saved an awful ending that I was about to go off on. Where the Mavs, it felt like they took their foot off the gas a little bit. But
this is why you trade for Kyrie Irving.
That's it.
This is why you trade for Kyrie Irving. You know that you have two all-world closers. And in that moment going into it, I know I asked myself, who takes this shot?
Yeah.
And, I mean, I was starting to, I don't know if you recall, I was starting to maybe diagram, okay, what happens here? Are you doing double drag, and then Luka comes off and then drags off that gets the ball? And that was kind of the way that the action started. And so I'm like, oh, it doesn't seem like they were able to get the ball to him. And then you have something else come along, and ultimately Kyrie Irving, just, again, why you trade for him, because you know that you have a chance at any given time to make, if you need a single bucket, he has a good opportunity of getting you that single bucket.
As long as they didn't run that double pin down, Luka comes up from the baseline to the top of the three and then tries to hit that. I mean, that shot, that highlight, like compilation of all those game-winning attempt plays from last season over and over again. That's the exact same play. It will just live in my head for forever. And this wasn't that. They got something different out of it. They got Kyrie running around,
and he was going towards the rim, like that particular.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't hate that particular design, because you get him moving towards the rim. It's just he needed a little bit of individual brilliance, and luckily he's got a decent amount of that himself.
And it wasn't just the end shot for him either. It didn't feel like he was part of this game for the first half, at least in the way that we're normally used to Kyrie being part of a game. And then there's something that he's had these moments this season where he looks at what the team needs and he just kind of adds that. He gives them what they need just in like a quarter. And so in the third quarter, they really, really needed something. They needed some kind of offensive punch. And he gave him 30 points, or he gave him 10 points in that third quarter. And that was necessary. Like they needed that little bit, and especially at the end, he hit a couple of threes. He hit another runner. Like they needed just a little bit more. 10 points, 2 assists, and hit a couple of threes there in that third quarter. And it's just him knowing what they need. And like now that they have this different identity, this different defense that can show up, we hope
appear.
we hope when they really want to, and they did want it. They wanted it against this Denver team. This Denver team came in and like, they didn't necessarily need this game. I guess they could have had it or not, but the Mavs definitely wanted it. And you want to see your team, and you want to see this Mavericks team, when they won a game, when they really want to play well, they can come out and play that kind of defense, and they did. And then Kyrie and Luka gave them just enough offense to get them over the hump.
Absolutely. I do want to go back to the Kyrie Irving thought, because how do you feel like he has done integrating himself into this team? Because, I mean, like you said, it does feel like there's a lot of times where he's not involved in it, and sometimes it almost feels like he's the mercenary where, when we're not necessarily going in the offense, get him the ball, and, okay, you go for what you know. But I think this was one of those games that highlights the ways in which it does feel like he understands exactly what he needs to give, and sometimes right at the last moment, almost it feels like he shows up with a hook shot, floater shot to win a game.
Are you Kyrie stan? 67, 58, 37?
No, I'm actually 39. Yeah, that was 2 more before I got there. Yeah.
All the Kyrie stands with just the numbers and the name on it are like, how do you feel about how Kyrie's being used? Doesn't feel like he's being featured enough. No, I think Kyrie puts himself in those situations where he's been the one that. You remember the KD nickname, the Servant, from forever ago? That was the dumbest, worst.
It's so maddening to me, because he had the Slim Reaper, and people wanted to call him the Slim Reaper.
And he hated that.
And it was the point in time where KD was still trying to make everybody like him.
But yeah, he did, and he wanted, the idea of that nickname, the dumb nickname that KD tried to give himself, was that I serve the game where it needs to be, where I need to go. I will do this. I can score 15 points in a quarter. I can get assists. I can get rebounds. I can play defense. And it feels like Kyrie is taking that kind of mentality, and it feels like he has this entire time that he's been here in Dallas. Is that I'll take that on. I'll take whatever you guys need in that moment. And it's been on him. And honestly, I've wanted him to be more aggressive at times in games like this, and throughout. And he's found spots where he can. and things like that. But, he took 23 shots. I guess you can't ask him to do a ton more than that. You don't want him to take like 30 shots in a game. But in a game like this where no one else was really hitting, I guess maybe sometimes you do. So I do. He's fit well. He's fit next to Luka as well as you could have hoped somebody like that, where it's not like it doesn't feel like a tug of war between the two of them.
Absolutely.
It does feel like a your turn, my turn, but that's what you expect from two guys like that are playing at that level that can create and can score on ISOs and can hit a floater on Jokic that wins the game. That's just absolutely insane. So coming up, let's talk about how they got there. How did the Mavs get this win? How did Luka carry them all the way up until the very last shot? Let's talk about that and more coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at LinkedIn. It's not just another job board. They can help you to find exactly the professionals that you want, and they can get you to your job. So LinkedIn does all the process while making it super easy and intuitive for you. Hiring is easy when you have that many qualified candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So check out LinkedIn. They know that small businesses, if you own a small business, you wear so many different hats. You're constantly trying to find new ways to make a process like this easier. And so 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. Again, that's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Again, check out linkedinjobs.com. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. We appreciate each and every one of you for sticking around. And go check out the Locked On Sports Dallas 24/7 stream. We want to get more subscribers on the Locked On Sports Dallas YouTube channel than the LA one, the Bay Area one, God forbid the Philadelphia one.
Goodness.
So we want more, the LA one. Beat LA, right? So
Always.
Go check out Locked On Sports Dallas. Go subscribe to it. It's got a 24/7 feed. I'm on there. You've got Locked On NBA, Locked On Cowboys, Locked On Rangers, all that kind of stuff. Go check it out. Locked On Sports Dallas YouTube, as well as Amazon Fire TV. All right, Reggie.
Yep.
Luka, it felt like in this game, Luka was just doing the most that he could, and he wasn't getting any help offensively. It just didn't feel like anybody was going to come alongside. Then we talked about what Kyrie did.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. The Luka, 37 points, only 3 assists. The Nuggets really sold. They used the same tactic we've seen from a lot of different teams. They really sold on, like, we're not going to let you make these passes. We are going to, when you try and run a pick and roll with Lively, he's going to get the ball in the paint. There's going to be 3 guys around him. We're taking away the assists from Luka. Like, we're completely taking that away, letting you go one-on-one. Go ahead. Go one-on-one against Jamal Murray. Go ahead. Go one-on-one against Michael Porter Jr. And last game when they played, I didn't work for him. Michael Porter Jr. played really good defense in the last meeting that these teams had. But Luka, at a certain point, you just can't do anything, and 37 points for him.
Yeah, and you mentioned the idea that they were trying to kind of clamp down on some of that passing. Luka Doncic being Luka Doncic, there was quite a few times where I heard you exclaim because Luka Doncic throws a pass between just a forest of arms and gets it to that spot. And unfortunately, you did not have that level of knockdown shooting on the other end of that. That also didn't help him in that regard. And so, yeah, he absolutely was out there kind of going for solo, going for Dolo in a way, but he was still, finding ways to try and get guys involved. And also I think what helped in a good amount was the fact that you got a lot of boards, you got a lot of second chance opportunities, even when some of those shots didn't go. Absolutely huge.
The bully ball was massive, but back to the shooting, you mentioned, like the kickouts and the spray out. This is another thing that this team is totally different than past Mavs iterations.
Mm-hmm.
The Mavs went 9 of 35 from 3. 26% from the field.
Not what you want.
26% from 3, which is usually like a death sentence to the Mavericks.
Correct.
They never win games like that. And yet here we are where they have won a game against the best team in the NBA, per my opinion. Ask Theo Pinson about that, by the way. Do you remember? Have you seen that?
I haven't seen what he's...
2 years ago, when we did our media day interviews, we asked all the Mavericks for ask one question. Like, what would you have to ask Mavs media? And Theo Pinson was like, who's the best team and who's going to be the best team in the West? Who's number 1 in the West? And I was like, I think the Nuggets. And he just goes, what the? And just laughs, looks off to his friend over on the side. Isaac was laughing at me. Everybody was laughing. And then the Nuggets went and won the title.
That's right.
And we're the number 1
That's
seed.
right. That's why you listen to this man right here.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And then I was completely wrong thinking the Warriors are going to be number 1 this year. So
why would you bring that up?
You win some, you lose some.
Nobody wants the negativity of the bad shots. Just talk about the game winners, Nick.
But my whole point, going back to against the number 1 team, they didn't shoot the ball well from 3 at all, and only Luka and Kyrie made threes in this game.
Which honestly isn't that different than how many games do you want to go back. Like, it feels like that's been kind of the trend in some ways,
This is
that
where they're
Luka and
trending.
Kyrie are the ones who are bringing in the three-point shots. And that's what's bringing some level of
that was it.
decency to this. And that's, I mean, this falls within that line. But what's nice about it is that they've been able to compete. They've changed the way that this team works so that it is not a make or miss team in that way, where it's like if they are not knocking down threes, that's it. They've absolutely shifted the identity of this team away from just being, going with the variance of three-point shooting.
PJ Washington, 0 for 4. His three-point shooting has been brutal.
Yeah.
A lot worse than I thought it would be, really. It's not even corners either. It's all over the place now. I mean, you didn't make any. Derek Jones Jr., 0 for 3. You expect that at a certain point. Maxi Kleba, 0 of 3, and 1 3 that was like maybe the worst attempt I've ever seen in his career.
It was online. It was just very long.
It was
just very long.
Very bad. And then Tim Hardaway, 0 of 2. He played under 15 minutes, but still he didn't hit any shots. And then Dante
He didn't take a lot of shots, though.
He did not take a lot of shots.
Which, does that feel like a level of growth? Because it feels like Tim Hardaway Jr. jumps on the floor and it's like, I'm getting a certain amount of shots banked. Like, we know it ahead of time. It's just when are they going to get spent?
Not discussing Tim Hardaway.
Okay,
Jr.'s
fair enough.
growth
You know what?
this
It's game
early in
winner.
the-
Game winner day. All right, my bad.
I want to talk about good things.
Mea culpa. That's on me. My bad.
And then Exum missed 1 3 and didn't take a couple of threes, too, that were offered to him that were just out there. So this team is different now, and it felt like the Mavs I don't know enough about the Nuggets to know if like this was just a real awful offensive game for them, but it just didn't feel like they executed as well offensively as they have before. Because going into this game, I was telling all the subtexters, subscribe to the subtext if you want to get text straight from me about Mavs games and all kinds of extra content and stuff. Click the link in the description. But I was telling the subtexters before, I was like, I'm very nervous about this game because this Nuggets team is executing very well. They're destroying teams from the mid-range, and their passing has been absolutely incredible. They've just been like, you look at their like passes adjusted for like assist percentage, and it was off the charts how good this team has been since the All-Star break. Nuggets were 11-1 since the All-Star break. They lost 3 games before the All-Star break, and then they've just been on this tear where their only loss was to the Suns in overtime, and so they've just been like on another level. And so I was really worried about the Mavs defense coming into this. And if you look at this game, I mean, this was the Mavs' best defensive performance of the year if you look at it just by the numbers.
100%. And, like, as much as I think that this was a bad offensive game for the Nuggets, you could see in which you were talking about the mid-range. If we just look at that, there was a decent amount of chances where they were just off shooting-wise, right? They had some opportunities to knock down. But I'm not saying any of that to try and take away from the Mavericks, because one of the things that I was taking account of late, and, I mean, when I watch basketball, one of the things I try and do in my head is, what is this team trying to get to in this moment? What are they trying to get to? And there's a lot of offensive possessions for the Nuggets where whatever I felt like they were trying to get to, the Mavericks did a fantastic job of not allowing them to get there. There was times where they were running pick and roll. They're trying to get the ball. I mean, the easiest ones, right, is Jokic in the high post. They're trying to feed the ball into him so that he can initiate the offense from that high post. They're denying the ball. They're fronting. Kyrie is getting in there and fronting him and getting steals, right? Like,
that was a great play.
Those are instances where it's very evident that the Mavericks know what they're trying to get to, the Nuggets are trying to get to, and actively counteracting that, in addition to using that size, the length that they had to just frustrate. There was a lot of passes that were stolen in this game by the Mavericks. All of that points to, for me, good defense that's not allowing the other team to get to what they want, which in essence is what you want defensively.
And just smart stuff from Luka and Kyrie, like you mentioned.
100%.
That Kyrie play where he basically fronts Jokic, or he gets then there was the other one where he like was one-on-one with Jokic, and Jokic held the ball for a second, and then Kyrie went up and punched that one away too. Like, there was just, and Luka had 2 steals. Kyrie had 3 steals in this game. That was all the steals the Mavs got, by the way.
Oh, really?
Felt like more than that. Yeah, they only got 5, according to this. But, yeah, it was just smart stuff from them, and then just sound stuff from everyone else. I mean, coming up, let's talk about the bigs. Let's talk about Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, because the Mavs stuck with playing big until the very end of the game, like just the very end. And Jason Kidd has finally, I think, like transitioned into what this team should be, and we'll talk about what that is coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Stitch Fix. Stitch Fix. They sent me a box. I like the stuff that they sent me. And you know that when you put on something good, a lot of you make fun of me for wearing this jacket a lot of time, but it makes me feel good when I wear it. It makes me feel good. And you know the confidence boost you get when you have an outfit that makes you look really good. It makes you feel good. Stitch Fix will help you do that. It's basically like Tinder or Bumble for Clothes, where you go in, you swipe what you like, you swipe what you don't like, and then they'll create a profile for you with your exact size, your measurements, the style that you like, and all that kind of stuff. And you can easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with professional stylists that helps you find new on-trend favorites that will work for you. Just check out the stylist to give them your size, your style, your budget preferences too, and then you get a box, you order a box, and then if you don't like the stuff, you get to send it back for free. It's always just the right fit, all that kind of stuff. Go check it out at Stitch Fix. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/lockedon. That's stitchfix.com/lockedon. Again, check it out, stitchfix.com/lockedon. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. Oh, man. Let's go. What a game. What an incredible
let us go.
game
Absolutely.
for the Dallas. We're not going anywhere. We're staying right here. Oh, man. The Mavs played bully ball against the Nuggets.
Yeah,
and
man.
Jason Kidd, it feels like, has embraced the identity of this team. It seems to take him a little while, but it's feeling like when the Mavericks transitioned to being a small ball team 2 years ago when they went to the Western Conference Finals, they're not playing as well as they were then. Like, there's definitely been moments where I felt this team was terrible. And their defense was just not playoff quality caliber at all. But it feels like the same kind of thing where Jason Kidd leaned into that small ball with Maxey at the 5, Dorian Finney-Smith, Reggie Bullock, Luka, and Brunson. He's like, all right, I'm just going to lean into this a little bit more. And now it feels like they're doing almost a complete opposite, but leaning into our identity of we're going to play big. We're going to play we got these two centers. We'll play bully ball. 21 offensive rebounds for the Mavs.
Is that good?
6 offensive rebounds for the Nuggets. Do you remember a game, was it earlier this season or was it last year? I cannot remember. The Nuggets had like 20 offensive rebounds, and we were freaking out about that.
Oh, man. Yeah, like this was – I loved it. I mean, we were talking about the things that we'd like to see over the, remainder of the season, and this is one of the things I talked about, being big, particularly closing big. And it felt like he leaned in, especially in this game, because you have a guy in Nikola Jokic that you have to account for.
Yeah, always.
And it was nice seeing that there was a very deliberate way of trying to battle against that, which we kind of noticed, which was either Daniel Gafford, who we know of the two of your centers between him and Lively, is the one that's a little bit more stout, a little bit less likely to be moved. And so Gafford got out here and did the things that we've seen recently, which is be strong, not be easily moved against a guy like Jokic who has that level of heft to move somebody, in addition to, getting rebounds, or at least, giving those effort plays that gets a hand on the basketball, that keeps it, that tips it out, that gives you an opportunity to get those rebounds. And then what he did on the other, when he was in other minutes, and it did seem like it was really, subbing out this pattern this way, which is Lively, who we know you don't necessarily want to be one-on-one with Jokic, because Jokic might be able to manhandle him.
I didn't think so, and he had a couple of good possessions. He had a couple of bad ones, but he had a couple of good ones too.
Well, in order to mitigate that, he puts Maxi Kleber out there,
Right.
who is another dude who is more stout, even though he doesn't have that vertical aspect. In order to help with that vertical aspect, they would help Lively over usually pretty quickly, so that you couldn't get, if Jokic got in deep, now you have that vertical aspect to make it tougher. And so this goes all the way into the idea that I typically would view, if you gave me just a clean game, Nuggets, Mavericks, if you're telling me size makes the impact in that game, I would always have said it was the Nuggets that got the benefit of that. Not today. Not tonight, right? Or today, rather, right? It was, in fact, the Mavericks who all the way around were not allowing anything to go down low, and it was very evident that they were playing together, right? I understand this isn't the size aspect of it, but it helps with the down low and the paint. Those weak side backdoor cuts and things like that, where teams were punishing guys for falling asleep, none of that happened in this game, because all these guys were tapped in, and some of that was because you had all of that help down low, but then on top of it, these guys were playing together. So those two things paired together, it really made the size aspect of this show up for the Mavericks.
Absolutely. 21 offensive rebounds for the Mavs, by the way. The most against the Nuggets this season. Portland had 19 in a game earlier this season. Brooklyn had 18. Utah had 17. The Clippers had 16. And the Kings had 15. Blazers had 15 again. OKC had 15. Dallas had 15 earlier this season. And that's the most offensive rebounds in a single game against the Nuggets this season. It's like 19 once, 18 once, 17 once, and the Mavs had 21. So this is not something to gloss over, because it's something that doesn't happen to this team very, very often, to get outboarded like that, especially 21-6. I mean, that's insane. That's effort. That's Mavs being intentional. That's them leaning into size and playing the size. And like, for as much as Maxey doesn't bring a lot on the offensive end, and he had that awful 3 that we mentioned earlier, he does bring at least some size to like on the boards.
Right.
He doesn't grab them necessarily himself. Only 4 for him. No offensive rebounds, but just somebody there to tip the ball or to like be in the way of somebody else.
Sure.
Sometimes you just need some size. And the Mavs played this huge lineup at one point in the game. It was Kyrie, Luka, PJ Washington, Maxey, and Gafford.
Wait, you said some point. That was the closing lineup, Nick, right? Some point in the game was at the end of the game.
Where they went for it. They really
Right?
went
Like that it felt good because not only was there a clear plan, it felt like for one point during the course of the season, this coaching staff looked and they identified the better aspects of all of their players and utilized them in a way to a desired end, right? Like that's one of the things that was very encouraging as well. You looked at Maxi Kleber and were like, okay, even though in theory we think of this guy as a spacing big or whatever, so should we play small ball? No. What the actual aspect that will be helpful for you in this game is he's stouter and he can keep Jokic from backing his way all the way to the basket. So we're going to utilize him that way.
And I felt like they threw him out there a lot. I felt like in the second half at least, they matched his minutes with Michael Porter Jr. a little bit because it felt like other guys struggled against him. Porter Jr. had 19 minutes in the second half. Maxey had 12, so it wasn't exactly like 1 for 1, but it felt like at least at the end there, when Porter Jr. went in, Maxey went in as well, and he had a better time against him than others did. But, yeah, you look at the minutes in the second half. Kyrie had 21. Luka had 21. PJ, 16. Derek Jones Jr., 14. Gafford, 14. Maxey, almost 12. Lively had under 10. And then Exum had 7. And then Hardaway, less than 5 in the second half. I mean, he's really kid's really going away from him.
Yeah.
And, I think he pulled the right levers as far as rotation. Like I'm not coming away at this game. I know they won and like we're feeling really good about it, but I felt like he pulled the right levers rotation wise.
I agree. It was one of my main takeaways. In addition to this, one of the things that I thought when we saw that big lineup hit the floor, I was like, oh, he's actually doing it, right?
Finally.
I think I said that to you, was he's actually doing it. The first thing I thought about was, okay, but what I will be really sad about is if they then get beat off of the dribble because they have all this size and this other team has a little bit more movement and shiftiness, and they did not, which I want to give a lot of credit to these guys on the floor for their effort, right? Because effort seemed to matter, and it matters every night defensively for these Mavericks because when they are not giving effort, they are so very susceptible to getting beat. And I don't know if it's just, hey, you're playing the Nuggets and it's a big game and so you're going to buy in, right? That's a part of it.
That's what it is.
Okay, fair enough. But because they brought it, right? They did bring that.
Yeah.
And so you can see the capabilities that this defense and this team can show when they do give that effort. And so, again, it makes you hopeful that they are going to bring the effort more consistently because this is the end result, is you'll see a team that can make it really tough on a team that I believe firmly has an on-off switch. There's not a lot of teams that I think have those on-off switch. I've seen it multiple times or many times with these Nuggets where they just decide that this game is over.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? The Nuggets just decide this game is over.
They did.
And they wanted to do that.
They did decide that.
And the Mavericks still end up with the W. Like, that matters a good amount to me.
This is where I was going to get so frustrated with this team, and I am kind of still frustrated in how this ended. 6:50 left in the game. Mavs go up 13, largest lead. Then, like, the next possession, I think the Nuggets score. Then next possession, Kyrie and Luka kind of roll the ball out and just kind of sit there.
That's right.
Luka plays offensive line
That's
where he
right.
stands in front of Kyrie, and they run like 20 seconds off the clock, and we were both
Not
laughing.
like 20 actual
20
seconds.
actual seconds.
Thank you.
We went back and we did the capital J journalism thing. We
You're
went
welcome.
back and
Yeah.
we measured it. From 6:16 to 5:55, they just held the ball in the backcourt and ran off the time. And then you're like, okay, good job for the Mavericks to run off time. But, like, does that put in your mind as a team your mentality of, like, all right, let's just try and play prevent defense until we run out? Because they only scored, until Luka hit the 3 with 24 seconds left, they scored 4 points from 6:50 to 24 seconds. So in like 5 minutes and 34 seconds or something like that, they only scored that 4 points in the end of the game. Some of it is the Nuggets defense turning it on with that on and off switch you mentioned. Some of it I felt like was the Mavs just, all right, we're playing prevent defense and let's just try not to lose this lead instead of keep adding to it. And I felt like, if they would have lost, I would have gone off on that mentality, I think. And I still don't really like it.
I'm going to be completely honest. I had that thought in the moment, but during the course of watching it, and I'm going to be honest, I can't remember exactly what all of those individual possessions look like in this moment.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this before we went live, right? I did not get the feeling that the Mavericks let go of the rope in this one. If you did not have the fantastic theatrics at the end,
I didn't think they did.
fair enough. Okay, that's fair. But it felt like offensively, they might have still gotten decent looks that just didn't fall to me. And again, I'm going to need to go back and look at it. But yeah, they weren't scoring, to be fair, but it didn't feel like they were wasting possessions per se. That's not what my memory of it was. And so I wasn't as mad, but you know what? If I go back, I might. It's possible that we end up in that place.
I'm just gonna be the sports radio guy that says I didn't like the mentality. I don't like how they played. I don't like the way that they came about this win. But it was just that at the end.
Yeah.
But honestly, if those are the things that I'm upset about, gosh, this is such like a needed win for this team to just build confidence, to look yourself in the mirror and say, all right, we can beat anybody. Because for a while, that was true, and I believe that.
Yeah.
The Mavs put in the effort on defense. If they hit enough threes, then they can beat anybody. Now it's if they can get enough offensive rebounds and they can play enough defense, put enough effort, they can beat anybody. And that's still the case if you've got Luka and Kyrie on the other end, which is just absolutely insane. A 21-foot left-handed floater, like, scoop shot.
Hook shot. It kind of hooked, but kind of a push shot. Offhand, I don't know. It's insane. Shout out to Kyrie Irving for being, again, the best difficult shot maker in the league.
Absolutely insane. So tomorrow we'll be back with another show on Locked On Mavs. We will have you covered, and then for the rest of the week, Mavs have a couple more games. They get a little easier after this. I'm excited for that.
Good.
I think there's Spurs, the Jazz coming up. So,
excellent.
I'm not going to say they're winnable games because when I say that, the Mavs lose those games. So, not saying that. Not going to. I've jinxed them too many times. I have. But thanks so much for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. Again, subscribe on whatever podcast platform you listen to, Apple, Spotify. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.